Following the conclusion of war in Europe in May of 1945, the Cunard liner Aquitania was used to transport troops back to their home countries, including Australia, New Zealand, the United States, and Canada. Aquitania would be under contract with Canada's Ministry of Transport from January 1946 until the 16th of March 1948. Following the expiration of this contract, Aquitania was dry docked, where it would be refitted and repainted back for peacetime service. In February of 1948, 1 month prior to the contract expiring with the Ministry of Transport, 2 important documents were made regarding Aquitania. The first one was an examination of the ship prior to being refitted, and it states, "Conduct excellent, hull and engines in first-class condition, age 34, but 23 knots cannot match the Queen ships, and she is not worth restoring to Atlantic luxury standards." What is significant about this document is that it ensured that Cunard would not pay for the ship to be refurbished entirely. There would be many spaces within the ship that would not be touched and would be closed off from public access. Cunard, also recognizing that the ship was no longer amongst the speed demons of the North Atlantic, decided to permanently disable Boiler Room 2 in order to reduce operational cost. Rather than making its maximum speed of 23 knots, it would only be capable of 18 knots following the deactivation of Boiler Room 2. The second document was signed between Cunard and the Canadian government on the 19th of February 1948, placing Aquitania en route between Europe and Canada for the immigrant trade. This contract was good for 1 year, and it ensured that Aquitania was not yet sent to the scrapyard since it was replaced on the Europe to New York route by the Queen Elizabeth. The ship's 1-year stint on this passage was very successful. There were multiple times it was reported that Aquitania was fully booked, and she was actually carrying more passengers than she did in the mid to late 1930s. Aquitania proved so successful on this route that the Canadian government signed a contract for 1949, extending its service another year. 1949 proved to be as successful as 1948. However, on the 9th of November 1949, some newspaper companies got the whiff of a new story. The last of the 4 funnel liners, the 44,786-ton Aquitania, may go to the shipbreakers soon. After an Atlantic voyage, which starts from Southampton on Tuesday, she will be surveyed by engineers who will report on her future. On the 15th of November 1949, Aquitania departed Southampton with passengers for the final time. Upon its return, it would be laid up and surveyed, and the results of the survey were not good. Overall, the ship's hull and machinery were still in first-class condition. However, the accommodations of the vessel were less so, and it would be quite expensive to overhaul the interior of the ship, and it was more than any company would be willing to pay. So, on the 14th of December 1949, Cunard announced that Aquitania would be withdrawn from service. From mid-December 1949 to early January 1950, Aquitania's internal fittings were removed and placed in a shed on the Southampton dockside. In there, they would be sold off during auctions in late February. On the 18th of February 1950, Aquitania was sold for £125,000 to the British Iron and Steel Corporation. At 1 p.m. on the 19th of February, Aquitania would depart Southampton for the final time, en route for Faslane, Scotland, to the metal industries. Finally, at 3:30 p.m. on the 21st of February 1950, Aquitania's engines were stopped for the final time as it arrived at its destination. Aquitania would wait in limbo for a month and a half while documents were finalized, and on the 4th of April 1950, the ship was officially handed over to the metal industries for breaking up, and on the 11th of April 1950, they reported that demolition had begun. Overall, the demolition of the ship would be smooth, starting from the top and working their way down the hull. However, on the 12th of October 1950, it was reported that Aquitania's bow had caught on fire. The fire was placed under control within 30 minutes, and the only damage it had done was it had scorched the metalworks at the forward end of the ship. As far as I can tell, the cause of the fire was never ascertained, but since the ship was being demolished, no one really cared to find out what started it. By the summer of 1951, the ship's bottom is all that remained, and by fall, the Aquitania was no more. On the 11th of March 1952, the ship's register was officially closed, and the glorious career of one of the most influential ocean liners ever constructed came to a conclusion. With that having been said, that is all I have to say on this topic for today. So, if you have learned something new in this video, why not leave a like and a comment down below, and have a wonderful day.